Hey guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome back to the Division 2 closed beta. So today we're going to be talking about the late game. Basically on the second day of the beta, we got access to a mission where you could play as the elite, sort of the high-end spec gear, utilizing a special weapon. This was a grenade launcher, or a sniper rifle, or a crossbow with an explosive tip to it. And yeah, it was quite an enjoyable experience. Definitely made the game a lot more interesting in the late game stage, which when the first game came out, it was pretty much once you'd done all the missions and you'd ranked up to the top, there was a very big lack of late game equipment and late game moments. And then of course it didn't help the original Division's case that you had to pay for these particular late game moments. So the fact that they're doing this whole sort of revitalizing and having like a new faction coming in at the late game does make things a lot more interesting, and it does add that extra sort of longevity to the game, which is pretty awesome. So, without further ado, let us get started. So, let us get started. So when you pick one of the three characters that are high tier, you get introduced to a cutscene where it basically sort of says, you know, July 7th, DC City is stabilizing. And then it goes into this sort of thing where it says that a new foe is arriving. And it's, you know, providing it sort of introduces to you what is essentially is the late game faction, which is known as Black Tusk, who are attempting to take over the city of Washington DC. So no idea whether these guys show up if you progress in missions or if you progress in levels. I'm going to assume it's a mixture of both or one or the other, but we just don't know at this point. And the mission you have to do, because unfortunately it's only a mission, there's no real free roaming capacity. I mean, you can, after the mission, do a bit of free roaming around the mission area. There's like a small section around the federal building, which is the mission you have to do. You can do a little bit of exploring, but again, it's not really much. It's pretty much just do the federal building mission, which you did actually have to do earlier in the as you're grinding up. So I imagine the thought process behind this is that depending on the amount of time it takes between you doing the federal building where you start up Icarus and this one where you have to go into the federal building to defend Icarus, probably would be a good few hours between the two. So hopefully when you do come back, it's more of a sign of your progress more than, well, we've kind of run out of ideas for originality in missions. But the way it came across in the beta, it kind of felt like the thing, because you're literally doing the same route, it's only just with high tier opponents. But regardless, it was enjoyable, and this is of course where my friends and I discovered, as mentioned, we could have different enemies in different rooms, so it was good. Like, there were good things about this mission, but you know, you could argue the case on regardless of which point. So yes, basically these are the Black Tusk guys. Now what they are is basically an elitist PMC group with Division tech levels. Basically they have the highest gear, the most armor, and they also have robotic like armored vehicles and heavy, like, so you know, like the machine gunners have like normally like either an RPK or an M60 or whatever. These guys have got miniguns. They are a legit terrifying threat, which is brilliant because it, you know, makes the whole, and the miniguns are actually proper miniguns in this game, so it makes it even more terrifying when you see a guy walking around with a minigun. Because of course they have the shitloads of armor which you have to crack, and they actually are bits around the armor. So for example, if you focused all of your machine gun fire on the chest, you break that piece off, but then he turns around, you have to go through another piece of armor before your weapons start doing it. Like, your normal weapons will start doing any damage. So it's a very, very sort of awesome enemy to fight. And in general, the Black Tusk guys are, at this moment in time, the most interesting faction for me because they have such a decent variety, decent challenge. And as mentioned, they have robotic technology, one of which is this like Terminator 2 drone with like a machine gun on one side and a grenade launcher on the other. And it has like tracks and everything, so you know that's dangerous. But the real terrifying one is what I call a walking tank. Basically, it's like a dog-like drone with a sniper rifle on the back, and the drone itself kind of looks like the one that, if you've ever heard of a group of people called Boston Dynamics, it's basically a scientific team developing robotic dogs and other creatures like of the sort to basically have decent geometry, and one of these things can like even run up to 30 miles an hour, which is terrifying. So the general gist is that both of these devices take a lot of damage before they go down, and they can dish out a fuckload more damage than you can. What I call the walking tank can one tap you if you're not careful. Like, it'll either destroy your shield or it'll kill you outright. Like, it'll just thump you onto the ground. So you have to be extremely careful with that. And of course, you know, you have all of the other classes, which I won't go into major details with because we'd be here forever. But no, it's an incredibly, you know, for the mission itself, it's, you know, as I said, you're following the same route. You're going into the building, you're going through the same areas, killing all of the bad guys, stopping Icarus from being hacked, and then going about clearing out the rest of the attack before dealing with the boss. So incredibly intense mission, but regardless, you know, immensely enjoyable and different every time. So, now that we talked about the setup, let's talk about the weapons. Now, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to focus more on my experience rather than stats or more of an in-depth style, because first of all, closed beta, still things are like, you know, everything's up in the air, and second, it's more down to the mission as well, because we only had a small-ish environment to work with, and in the environment there were loads of close-up, medium to close-range engagements. So I have a feeling, you know, they were also not really helping the scenario of testing it fairly. So I won't really count this as a sort of a fair test. So it's more, again, more down to my experiences. Hopefully that will change when we get into the full game, which once it does come out, or the open beta allows us to do more, I'll be able to work with it more and hopefully get a bit more info for you guys. But anyway, let's start with my least favorite weapon, or at least favorite specialty, the sniper rifle, which, truth be told, surprised me the most. I didn't expect to not really enjoy that weapon. Because when I saw the trailer for it and I saw that they were talking about sniper rifles, I thought, nope, that's me. I'm in the background, I'm snipping away, having as merry time as possible. But no, it turns out I actually did not enjoy using that weapon at all. It felt very cramped. It kind of felt very headshot focused. Like, everything else was all right. It did do lots of damage. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it is a specialty weapon. It did. You know, it's a 50 cal sniper rifle, so there are reasons why you want to use it. But with the way that we were, you know, the scenario that we were given and the way that I utilized it in combat, I didn't really feel that when I did use it, I was actually contributing a large amount of damage into the particular game. So it really did feel more awkward to utilize this thing, and it didn't really feel like I could actually contribute a lot in comparison to my friends who were actually doing quite a substantial amount of damage with their specialties and their weapons as well. So yeah, not the best of weapons and not the best of introductions to the said weapon, but again, I think if we go into more open environments, maybe if we can initiate engagements from medium to long ranges, maybe something like the sniper rifle will have much more of a, you know, tactical impact on the situation rather than what we had here, which was literally big ass gun but not enough room to shoot. So now that we've talked about the sniper, let's talk about my, I wouldn't say least enjoyed weapon. I did enjoy using it, but at the same time I didn't feel much satisfaction with using it, which was the M32. So the M32 is a grenade launcher with 6 cylinders. It has an amazing artwork on it. I'm not gonna lie. I pointed out to one of my friends. It has like a slot machine like grenade cylinder, which I absolutely love. It's a brilliant sort of piss take sort of thing. Lovely little detail like that. So again, it's always the little details. But no, in terms of being utilized in combat, I didn't really feel satisfaction when using it. Like, at the time that I used it, unfortunately my friends were no longer online, and I unfortunately had to play the mission on medium in order to get it done. But no, so unfortunately when I did use it up against the heavies, it pretty much one-tapped them, which kind of sucked the fun out of it, you know. I know you want a grenade launcher to be powerful, but when your opponents who are like supposed to be the big scary buggers get extremely not scary and extremely fragmented all over the place by the noob tube launcher, it just doesn't feel as satisfying to use. And like when I did use it, it didn't feel like it was a sort of a right moment sort of thing when I grabbed it out. It just felt like it was the counter. You know, it's like, oh look, there's an enemy tank, you know, better get the rocket launcher out sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of sense. And even then, when you did use it against a heavily armored opponent, they just flopped down dead and nothing really happened. You know, there was an explosion, there was other things, but it just never really felt as satisfying as it could have been, or as it might have been. And I just felt a bit sad because it was, again, I just didn't feel as satisfying as I thought it was. It was extremely effective, don't get me wrong, in terms of enjoyment factor as well. It was good on occasions to like watch 2 or 3 people explode, which is why this thing's slightly better than the sniper rifle, because when I did use it not on enemies, heavy enemies, but actual normal enemies, it was rather hilarious to watch them fly into the distance. But as terms for like combat effectiveness, it just, no. It really just, for me, it just, I could use it and it worked, but it had no sense of satisfaction with it whatsoever. So we've talked about the sniper, we've talked about the M32, let's talk about the class that took me by surprise the most. The crossbow. Now the crossbow is basically a one-shot sticky explosives bomb which can do bleed damage, and for that worked really well with my combat style. The way I like to play the Division is kind of a mix between a damage dealer and a medium to close range support kind of person. I like to assist my team when it comes to holding flanks, like for example, I'll help sort of tank damage, or I'll help try and try and cause group damage to enemies. So I'll either throw in the first game, for example, I'd use a flashbang grenade launcher, which wouldn't do any damage, but it would stun loads of high quality enemies, and then we could hit the priority targets to control the engagement. Or I would throw in a explosive like flame thing and block off a route. So basically, a incendiary grenade. I could basically throw in certain things to provide assistance to my team, thus being able to make them operate more effectively. And I felt that similar style of gameplay when I was playing with the crossbow, because there were certain moments when we were playing with the said crossbow that there were a cluster of enemies moving up on one particular flank. So I would get my crossbow out, fire it against the enemies, and it would basically do, not immensely large amounts of damage, but it would still do a decent level, and then the bleed factor would take effect. So by the time they finally got to the point where they could threaten off my allies, they could easily be taken out within a few shots. Whereas, beforehand, if I had, for example, the sniper rifle, I would be, struggling to take them out. Or with the other weapon, I would be sort of maybe less willing to utilize it because I want to conserve ammo for when the tanks appear. So really, it was, a really good blend of, not overpowered, but also not incredibly weak. A bit like a Goldilocks moment, just the right kind of spot, where I could easily use it for both anti-infantry as well as a high level of damage-ish, high level of damage. But no, that will probably be the first thing I'll go for when it comes to utilizing when it comes to playing this game and utilizing it in high tiers. So there are my opinions on the late game specialty weapons. I do enjoy using all of them. I think they have a potentially good place in the game. As mentioned previously in this video, I will be trying to do something more with them, hopefully with the open beta if they actually do change the location for the late game equipment for you to use, like maybe have like a small free roaming area, or if they have to do the same mission again, I'll try and replay with like different sort of mindsets to hopefully try and get as much usefulness out of the weapons as possible. And then of course we'll be trying to do something once the game actually does come out and I can fully go nuts onto utilizing this particular like late game equipment. I'm definitely going to go for the crossbow first though, as mentioned. I think that'll be the one that for me is really a lot of fun. I would like to see more classes, like more specialty weapons introduced into the game, like even if they have to do a thing where like you have to, like, I don't know, pay Phoenix credits to swap specialty weapons or something silly like that, just so that way you can swap them without having to really swap your character, because I think that would be really cool if you could sort of switch, how like you can switch your skills and your perks. It would be kind of cool to switch your specialty weapons as well, just to sort of see what kind of flow you want to go with. I mean, I know, again, depending on how they want to go with an extreme late game, but I think that would be really nice for like different raids. So for example, you could get a crossbow for one raid, and then because you like 2 other people are like really good with their sort of their gear and their sniper rifles, you're like, okay, well I'll go noob tube then, so it keeps that sort of sense of fresh. And then again, if we have more classes, it would be kind of awesome to see, like for example, someone with a HMG. So rather than like I don't know, a SAW or an AED6 power, you get like a proper, I would be cheeky and say 12.7mm machine gun, but that would require it being a 50 cal, or just something with a bit more pizzazz as a machine gun, or it could be something different. It could be a flamethrower, it could be a super a drone, an actual proper tank drone, maybe as a special weapon. Who knows? Maybe something that would really sort of communicate the tactical and technical superiority of the Division. You know, something along those lines I think would be pretty awesome to have in the Division. And also, you know, kind of want more, because this game is awesome and I want more out of this game. So yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. Let me know what you guys think about the different specialty weapons in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your opinions on them. Do you like the sniper rifle more? Do you prefer the grenade launcher? Or do you actually enjoy the crossbow more or less? I'd like to hear your opinions regarding that. And thank you once again for following me on this little mini-series regarding the Division 2. Hopefully when this game comes out in, well, sadly, still just under a month's time, we will hopefully get to see more content, more awesome stuff, and I get to fully enjoy this game to the max. Anyway, I will see you next time. This is Mr. Jaeger, signing out.